What's up, team? In this video, I share with you guys 3 important questions which often get overlooked in traditional business planning. For every venture I've planned and started, I always get to a point where I ask myself a few specific questions. Now, after reading a lot on the habits of successful people and the challenges they face, as well as speaking to clients and friends who I learn from, it sounds like that I'm not the only one who asks myself these questions. Since a lot of entrepreneurs seem to ask themselves these questions, I think it's actually important to at least just consider it before we get lost in the business. Now, before I go into it, I'd just like to make clear that I'm still very early on in this journey myself. What I'm doing is just sharing the things which I've learned and done personally, which I've found have been helpful to me in my journey so far in overcoming the mental barriers and really helping put things into perspective. So on that note, what are the 3 important things which I ask myself, as well as I advise my clients to ask themselves when starting a business? 1. What is my end goal as far as I can see it? This is important to me on a few levels. On a business level, it's going to affect how I'm going to structure the business. For example, if I know I want to build a huge multi-million-dollar empire, I might not bother starting off as a sole trader, and I might just register myself a company from the get-go. It's also going to affect how I run my business. So once again, if I'm looking to set up a multi-level, multi-million-dollar business, I know that I'm going to need more complicated systems and procedures. Knowing that, I'd actually put more effort and time into the systems and procedures when I first start off, just so I'm not making them up as I go along, because that's a really easy way to end up with a bunch of systems and procedures that are absolutely obsolete. Knowing the end goal from a business point of view also lets me reverse engineer. If I know what my end goal is, then I can plan backwards and have a rough idea of what the exact course of action is going to be, and it really helps me stay on path. From a personal point of view, knowing what my end goal is going to be helps me stay grounded. Now, what I mean by that is know how far I want to go. For example, some people just want a business which can provide for themselves and their family and give themselves a certain level of lifestyle and security. Others might want a lifestyle business, and what I mean by that is a business which they might only need to spend 1, 2, 3 days a week on, and it gives them $50,000 to $100,000 source of income. Other people might want to build a multi-million, multi-billion-dollar income. Either way, everyone's different, and you need to know what you want. I think it's really important to have an idea how far I want to go before getting too caught up in the business. Yes, of course, we can recalibrate because our goals change, but at least that way we have something to aim towards and we will know when we're off track. For example, if I wanted to create a business for my family, I don't want to be in a position 10 years down the track where I may have made 10 times more money than I imagined, but I lost the reason why I did it in the first place. It's very easy to get caught up in the business if we haven't set our intentions clear from the start. Now, an example of this, I'm not much of a gambler, but I have been to a casino before. What happens at a casino? We lose money, right? But who goes into a casino with the goal to lose money? Often what happens though is, say, I walk in with $100 and I start playing. I might be up $50, so I've well and truly made more than what I came in with, but I get caught up in the moment. I get caught up in the emotions and I continue to bet, and normally what happens after that is I lose everything. The exact same thing can happen in business. Now, the difference is in business, we can win in business, but we will lose out on the reasons why we got into it in the first place. So it's very important to know what was my end goal before I get too caught up in it. 2, what is my worst case scenario and can I handle it? Now, this is good to know on a few levels. Firstly, I like to know what I'm getting myself into. For example, if I'm investing money, I want to know how much do I stand to lose. If I'm quitting my full-time job, I want to know how long can I survive for on the bare necessities and keep a roof over my head, assuming I make zero money. If I'm starting something while I have a full-time job, I want to know what does that mean for the amount of time and commitment I have to put into it, and what does that mean for my social life and my relationships. And most importantly, am I okay with the answers to all those questions? As a personal example to you guys, before I quit my full-time job to start my accounting business, I had to really ask myself, what level of income could I have from work which I could generate straight away, or from my other existing business ventures? I also had to know, how much money do I have access to, and how long would that last me, assuming I make $0? So the things which I had to take into account were my mortgage repayments, keeping my car running, feeding myself, my rates and taxes, utilities, still doing the things I like to do like exercise and maintaining relationships. I also had to ask myself, what was my worst case scenario and what was my plan in that scenario? So assuming that I made zero money and I ran out of all my savings, my plan was to actually rent out a room in my house and try let that rent cover some of my repayments at least. In failing that, I would have either rented out the whole house or sold my house and moved onto Dad's couch and basically kept trying from there. Failures and worst case scenarios aren't a bad thing, as long as we can plan for them and at least have a course of action we can take if they eventuate. The other reason why I like to know what the worst case scenario is so that I can face the fear. If you guys are anything like me, oftentimes I blow up scenarios in my mind and make them seem a lot worse than they could potentially turn out to be. Also, a lot of the times, the thing holding me back is the fear of the unknown. So what I like to do is basically put a label on that which is unknown. I plan for the worst case scenario and at least have an idea of what could it look like. So that could be both from a material sense, where what do I have to lose, to an emotional sense in what could be the emotions which I feel if the worst case scenario was to eventuate. Now, I'm happy to be a bit vulnerable to you guys here and tell you some of my biggest fears personally when starting ventures, especially the one where I had to quit my full-time job and basically start from scratch. Some of my fears were that I could lose my house and my investments. Also that I was used to a certain level of lifestyle and that I could no longer afford those luxuries which I could before while I had a stable income. I was also scared because I could stand to lose everything I've worked so hard for. I was also scared about what other people would think of me. My ego would feel humiliated. And more importantly, what would I think of myself if I failed? If the worst case scenario were to eventuate, how would I look at myself? On top of all that, the thought of sleeping on the couch didn't really excite me either. These were just some of hundreds and thousands of fears and concerns I had going through my mind at the stage. Honestly though, they seemed a lot worse when they were a big unknown just floating around in my mind compared to when I was able to actually get them out of my mind and put a face to them. Now, a great way to do that is through mind maps. The whole mind mapping process certainly helped me get all my fears out of my mind and onto the screen where I could put a face and a label to them. As humans, we do so much more to avoid pain than to gain pleasure. Now, if we make that pain a massive, big, scary unknown in our mind, we're never going to take the actions we need to take to experience the pleasure from success. By getting the big unknown fear out of our mind and onto a screen where we can plan for it, it really lessens its control and hold over us. Third and lastly is, what would my life look like with this business, and what is my sanity planning? Now, it's all well and good to hustle 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I am a massive fan of Gary Vaynerchuk, but even he said himself, his life isn't for everyone. We spend all this time planning for our business, but unless we're wanting our business to be our whole life, we need to make sure that we're planning for life as well. A good way to plan for that, I've found, is to consciously make a list of all the things which I really enjoy doing, the things which give me joy and fulfillment to actually do, and I need no motivation to go out and do it, and really try and make sure I do a little bit of that wherever I can. I think it's really important because it's what helps me stay vibrant, and I'm able to bring that vibrancy into my business interactions with clients as well as partners. An example of one of mine is exercise. Exercise is super important to me. I love the way it makes me feel in terms of mind and body, so I've made sure that I always make time for it and it's up there in terms of priority. Another one of my sanity activities is basically growth. I love to read, listen, watch, anything which is going to help me grow. It's part of my life purpose. And as a result, I make sure I create time for it no matter what, and it's up there in terms of priorities. Now, those are just two of many things that which I do, but I make sure that I create time for them. And that's the most important idea, is that you have to create time for it. If you don't create time for it, business and life is going to expand and fill up those gaps which you should have left for the things that you love to do. The benefit of doing sanity activities, as I call them, is they'll really put business into perspective for you. So guys, those are the three things which I feel are extremely important when planning for a business, and also quite important to ask yourself if you've been in business for a while and just need a bit of a refresher. They're really important to me, not just to build a successful business, but also to make sure that I enjoy the success that I've built. Now, I don't mean that from a purely material level, because I don't think we need lessons on how to enjoy things materially, but I mean from a really deep fulfillment and joy level. An entrepreneur which I follow, Peter Sage, he often says, one of the saddest things in life is an unhappy rich person. If we can't enjoy the success that we've built, what's the point? On that note, the cliff notes for you guys, the three important things to ask yourself and plan for. Know what your end goal is as far as you can see it. This will help you get on the right track and stay on it. Plan for your worst case scenario and write down your fears. This will show you what you have to lose and it won't seem as bad. Plan for your sanity. You're going to bring your mood into your business. We've all come in contact with that one business owner who's really grumpy and you think, jeepers, I'm not going to use your services again. Don't be one of them. Make sure you keep doing the things that make you joyful, and your business will benefit as a result from it. I really hope you guys have found this useful. Once again, these are just three questions which I find myself asking over and over again, and the people I speak to, these are the questions which seem to come up for them too. Please share this with anyone that you feel could benefit from this video, and until next time, done.